The Biden campaign is rolling out a $50 million ad campaign against former President Trump this morning, slamming the Republican candidate for being, get this, a convicted criminal. Game on.
Brooke Singman has the latest for us. Brooke?
Yeah, good morning, guys. The Biden campaign is still honing in on former President Trump's recent conviction. Here's a first look at that brand new ad. Watch.
This election is between a convicted criminal who's only out for himself and a president who's fighting for your family.
The ad comes just days after President Biden held another star-studded Los Angeles fundraiser, this time raking in a record-breaking $30 million. The record is still shy of the RNC's campaign fundraising record of $76 million in April. Jimmy Kimmel hosting the Hollywood event, which featured other big names like George Clooney, Julia Roberts, and former President Barack Obama. The event was not open to the press, but video taken inside shows President Biden appearing to freeze before his former boss leads him off stage. The incident comes after Biden appeared to wander off at the G7 summit in Italy last week. Former President Trump reacting to that video saying, quote, "Is this really who you want to be your president?" Meanwhile, the White House also releasing a transcript of remarks from the event where Biden warns that Trump could replace 2 Supreme Court justices if he's reelected, calling it, quote, "one of the scariest parts about a second Trump term." Biden said he's already appointed 2 that have been very negative in terms of the rights of individuals. The fundraiser comes 3 months after Biden raised $26 million at another star-studded fundraiser in New York City. Guys.
Brooke, thank you very much. So in the month of June, the Biden people are going to spend $50 million including on ads, including $1 million on ads targeting non-white people, according to the Washington Post this morning. Apparently, they're going to do an ad targeting Asian Americans, talking about health care, an ad to talk about how Joe Biden is empathetic for people who are faced with high prices. Just lower prices. It's much easier. And also a radio ad targeting black voters. It's interesting, though, the Trump administration has not yet run a general election TV ad this cycle. They're still raising money.
I also think it's so early to be running those ads. I think you're going to get people that are tired of it. But to Brooks' report about the Supreme Court, it looks like this administration is all in the campaign, is all in and attacking the court. Not only did he talk about the replacement, but he specifically cited Alito in the flag controversy and said, do you want a justice like that? Someone that is supposed to be, restoring norms into the presidency is going directly after members of the court by name. And this comes on the heels of, remember, there was an assassination attempt by someone that subscribed to the ideology of the left against Judge Kavanaugh.
Yeah, you're talking about Joe Biden saying the next president might get the chance to choose 2 Supreme Court justices. When you look at that ad, they're spending a lot of money. They're using his mugshot. That actually could hurt them. You're going to get the left, the far left that doesn't like Donald Trump. They're going to love that ad. But what about the people in the middle, the ones that feel like he was treated unfairly? And then his own son was just convicted last week, so he has to be careful with this. And they're spending a lot of money on trying to get that younger vote, but they're going to Hollywood, they're going to these celebrities, and the celebrities that they're using, it's in this Wall Street Journal ad article this morning. The celebrities they're using are very old. You have Robert De Niro, who's 80 years old, Carole King, 82, Steven Spielberg, 77. And this article says the younger voters are experiencing a divided time when war in Gaza has galvanized some of these young Americans and these voters.
Yeah, and one of those shots, George Clooney forgot to button his shirt all the way, which I thought really stood out. And Julia Roberts there, also in that age bracket where it's a little bit older. And Jimmy Kimmel likes to take pictures of himself, you see. But here's the thing. The Wall Street Journal says this might not be the best thing to do. I'll take a step back. You can analyze what the message is, but just think what he chose to do instead. He wanted to be with his Hollywood celebrities. Donald Trump says, I'd rather go to Detroit, to the inner city. Right. And then Zelensky said, please, I'm trying to do this peace summit. I need you to come. And he said, no. I'd rather be with celebrities in Hollywood. How serious are you supposed to take? You taking the Ukraine war when Zelensky's hosting a peace summit on what it would look like and wants to know how we could count on our allies? And they send Vice President Kamala Harris, who everybody knows does not have much juice in this administration. Yeah. So that's the choice he made. Let alone the people. I know money's money. He's going to outraise Trump, no doubt about it. But Trump's closing the gap. And I don't think those optics help. Also, the pro-Palestinian Hamas protesters were harassing them, chanting a Genocide Joe in Los Angeles.
But also on that point, Steve, you know, we could analyze who shows up to these events to fundraise for the current president. But the reality of it is, he can't campaign for himself in a way. He can't raise money for. You don't see all these Trump events where you have all these celebrities that have to bring in the money for him. It looks like the star of the event is the former president, Obama, or the celebrities that are at the event. It's not Joe Biden. People aren't coming to see Joe Biden. As you can see, he needed to be escorted off the stage.
Yeah, and Mr. Obama himself talked a little bit about, you know, Joe and I are not always on the same page, but 9 out of 10 times, he and I agree with the same stuff. So it's like, okay, everybody's got a problem with Joe Biden, and for the young people, it obviously is the Gaza situation. Regarding the Wall Street Journal item, you're talking about how all of his Hollywood supporters are north of 50, but they really need the 20s and 30s to vote for it. The campaign says that apparently they're going to have some start. Their event in Chicago, the convention in August, is apparently going to be star-studded, according to Wall Street Journal.
Better get good Secret Service.
Well, yeah, exactly, because they're already expecting a problem. Oh, Brian, you're right about that.
Right, it's a little bit too low.
Hers is lower.
Right. Oh, yeah, but that's not. I know, you're right. Why am I focused on George Clooney? What's wrong with me?
Yeah, that's not an untuck it, it's an unbutton it.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, here's an excerpt from the Wall Street Journal article. I don't want you to have to read the whole thing. Here's the most important part. People who work in the world of entertainment and political fundraising say that some celebrities, in particular those in their 20s and 30s, are eschewing politics during a historically divided time and at a moment when the war in Gaza has galvanized some young Americans. They also note that Biden doesn't offer the history-making appeal of President Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton. I wouldn't put Hillary Clinton in that because she used the Tonys to take a shot at Trump.
She talked about suffraging and how important it is for women to vote. Women went through so much during suffrage to allow us to vote. And then she said on stage, so use this opportunity to vote in November.
Right.
She got a standing
ovation.
She's
got a play in suffrage, which I think 7 people have seen. Susan B. Anthony and her family.
I don't remember that winning a Tony.
She was asked to speak there. Yeah. I don't really hear much buzz about it, but I'm not hanging out with the Broadway crowd anymore.
That's true. They don't invite
rush.
Well, you know what? We are working 1 block from Broadway.
I should be there.
We are.
We're off Broadway.
Right.
Just saying.
Way off.
They just need to write another play about another president.
Right.
And then you'll go. And then you'll be interested.
I do like Hamilton.
Yes.
Indeed. I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.